Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of caution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. The headlines. The biggest aero show of Asia, Aero India, begins in Bengaluru on Wednesday. Investors cheer India's union budget. Industrialists and economists hail the budget as visionary and reformative. US says it may reimpose sanctions against Myanmar in view of the seizure of power by the military. India's COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 97.05%, over 3.9 million people vaccinated so far. Indian-American Bhavya Lal is the new acting chief of staff at NASA, and World Wetlands Day is being celebrated today. Asia's biggest aero show is set to take off in Bengaluru tomorrow. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will inaugurate the three-day mega Aero India show that is taking place for the first time in a hybrid mode due to COVID-19 pandemic. More from our correspondent.
The 13th edition of Aero India show will see participants in both physical and virtual mode. Purely dedicated for showcasing India's prowess in defense production, the event will see showcasing indigenous platforms in defense sector. Over 200 MOUs will be signed between different procurement and manufacturing agencies. For the first time, defense ministers of Indian Ocean region from 27 countries will participate in person or through virtual mode in a conclave organized on the sidelines to discuss shared threats and cooperation in disaster management. Another first is a conclave of Chief of Air Staff from friendly countries to share ideas on impact of technical advances on air warfare. The Joint Secretary in the Department of Defence Production, Anurag Bajpai, told media persons in Bengaluru today on the Aero India participation.
In Aero India 19, only 403 exhibitors were there total. But even if the pandemic was there, we have 600 exhibitors. Then Indian exhibitors, if we see, against 238, it is 522. So the number has increased. And in virtual mode also, we have got the exhibitors on the virtual platform.
Giving details about the India Pavilion, in the Aero India show, Mr. Bajpai said that indigenous defense manufacturing capabilities will be showcased here.
The theme of India Pavilion is Rotary Wings. This India Pavilion will showcase India's indigenous manufacturing strength in rotary wings. There will be a display of major products like light utility helicopter, advanced light helicopter.
COVID protocol is followed with participants producing RT-PCR negative report made mandatory. The public entry is restricted with only 15,000 persons per day in the exhibition area and 3,000 for the flying display. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
Union Minister Rajnath Singh will attend the inaugural ceremony of the 2021 Aero India show at Yelahanka in Bengaluru tomorrow. The event would be the first ever hybrid air show in the country owing to COVID-19 restrictions. Mr. Rajnath Singh will be hosting the Indian Ocean Region IOR Defence Ministers Conclave on Thursday on the margins of the 2021 Aero India show. The conclave is in line with India's efforts to enhance peace, security and cooperation in the Indian Ocean. It also seeks to harness India's vision of security and growth for all in the region, or the Sagar Initiative. The Indian Ocean Region Defence Ministers Conclave would reinforce the relevance of the region and its continued importance for stakeholders from the perspective of trade, security and freedom of navigation.
Speaking ahead of the event, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that set against the vibrant defence and aerospace backdrop of Bengaluru, Aero India would offer unprecedented access, insights and opportunities to connect and collaborate with India and global industry leaders, visionaries, academicians, central and state administrations. Mr. Rajnath Singh stressed on producing defence equipment under the Atmanirbhar Bharat program, saying that India cannot remain dependent on other countries for the defence of our country. He was speaking after inaugurating Hindustan Aeronautics Limited's HAL's second Light Combat Aircraft LCA production line in the Bengaluru facilities of the HAL.
Ministry of Defence is relentlessly giving impetus to domestic manufacturing of defence equipments, not only to fulfill the demand of our armed forces, but also to make India a net exporter of defence equipments and platforms to friendly foreign countries. Aero India would offer unprecedented access, insights and opportunities to connect and collaborate with India and global industry leaders, visionary academicians, central and state administrations, and bringing together the defence ministers of various countries, service chiefs, policymakers, foreign OEMs, industry, entrepreneurs and academia to showcase, connect and collaborate, as well as highlighting the policy reforms and partnerships driving India's new defence manufacturing revolution.
The Defence Minister said that Cabinet Committee on Security chaired by the Prime Minister on January 13, 2021 approved the 48,000 crore rupees deal to procure 73 Tejas Mk1A variants and 10 LCA Tejas Mk1 trainer aircraft from the HAL. The decision, he added, will strengthen the national security while giving impetus to Indian Air Force and HAL. He assured HAL of all support in carrying out indigenous programs and hoped that HAL will deliver 83 LCA Mark 1A within the stipulated time and also meet the country's ambition of exporting LCA to friendly countries. Mr. Singh said that he has been informed that several countries have expressed interest in procuring indigenous Tejas M1A fighter aircraft. He also assured that many more nations will be ordering for the Tejas fighter jet soon. The United States has threatened to reimpose sanctions against Myanmar in view of the seizure of power by the military and detention of the Aung San Suu Kyi and other leaders of the civilian government. President Biden said that it will necessitate an immediate review of U.S. sanction laws followed by appropriate action. President Biden called the developments in Myanmar as a direct assault on the country's transition to democracy and the rule of law. He called upon the international community to press the Myanmar military to immediately relinquish power and release the activists and officials. The UN Security Council is due to meet on Tuesday amid calls for strong global response to the military action in Myanmar. More than 24 hours after her detention, the whereabouts of Aung San Suu Kyi reportedly remains unknown. Earlier, the UN Secretary-General had condemned the arrest of civilian government authorities in Myanmar. Meanwhile, the new army regime has announced the new cabinet with 11 ministers, while 24 deputy ministers were removed from their posts. The Tatmadaw said that it has reinstated all the judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts in the region and states. The Tatmadaw held the meeting of the National Defence and Security Council of Myanmar on Monday, with the Army Chief General Min Aung Hlaing and Acting President U Min Se participating in it. The official statement issued after the meeting justified the takeover of power by the military, claiming that November 8 elections were not free and fair. It said that upon completion of the tasks in accord with the provisions of the state of emergency, free and fair general elections will be held and duties of state will be handed over to the winning party. The National League for Democracy, NLD, headed by the deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi, has issued a statement on Tuesday denouncing the coup. It has called for immediate release of detainees, recognition of 2020 election results, and starting of a new parliament. In the aftermath of Myanmar's military seizing power and subsequent developments, the Indian Embassy in Yangon has issued an advisory to all Indian citizens residing in the country. In a statement, the embassy called for due precaution to be taken in view of recent developments in Myanmar. The Indian citizens are advised to be in touch with the embassy if need to be.
Meanwhile, an Air India flight scheduled to Yangon from New Delhi on the 4th of February has been rescheduled for the 11th of February 2021. In a statement, Air India said that the changes were made due to unavoidable reasons. The rescheduled flights will be operating on the 11th of February at 1500 hours local time. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
Investors continue to cheer the Budget 2021 as the Sensex breached the 50,000 mark in the early trade and Nifty reclaimed 14,600 led by gains in infrastructure and banking. Equity benchmark indices jumped by nearly 3% during the early hours today as investors continued their positive reaction to the Union Budget amid strong global cues. Speaking exclusively to All India Radio, top officials from the Government of India shared their views on the Budget 2021 presented on Monday by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Let's take a listen.
We have with us the Finance and Revenue Secretary, Shri Ajay Bhushan Pandey. Mr. Pandey, let's begin with the fiscal deficit aspect. 9.5% for the current year and 6.8% for the next year. That's what is expected. But don't you think 9.5%, close to 10% of the GDP, isn't that a whopping figure?
The fiscal deficit number has to be seen in a perspective. We are amidst this corona pandemic, which is a very, very unusual. During the last 10 months, this entire country was struck by this pandemic. We had an initial period lockdown, then slowly relaxation,
opening up.
Then economy got impacted, the jobs got impacted, the daily life of people got disrupted. And then thereafter, the economy started coming back to rails and also now showing the signs of recovery. During this period, the government came out with several packages, Atmanirbhar package. In fact, each of those packages could itself be termed as a mini budget. Now, in that backdrop, this particular budget had to come, and this budget could be seen not as an ordinary budget, but this budget is something which can address these problems created by this pandemic situation. And then also that post-pandemic, what will be the kind of economy that we want our country to take to? In which direction our country has to go. This is the first budget of this decade. Also, we are coming close to 75th year of our independence. Now, in this scenario, and particularly in the entire world, the economic order, the post-pandemic is going to be a new order. And in fact, the finance minister in her budget speech has said that in this, the Asia and then also within Asia, the India will have to play a very, very important role. So we have to prepare our country in that direction. Now, in these difficult times, who has the capacity to spend the money? It is the government. Because to expect the private investments alone will be sufficient, the answer is no. So therefore, the government had to come in and spend money. Now, this money is not that the money will get spent in any manner. It has to be a quality spending of the money. And that quality is basically, you have seen in the budget. On the health sector, more than 135% increase in the health. The capital infrastructure, 34.5% increase over the last year's one. Similarly, the agriculture. Similarly, if you see the financial sector, lots of reforms, the privatization of 2 banks and 1 general insurance company, IPO of LIC, plus monetization of public assets, the land. So all those things, and in addition to that, the simplification of the tax structure, reduction in compliance burden.
So it's a complete package.
So all those things, and considering that this 9.5%, the fiscal deficit, because we had to spend money, our revenue resources were limited, and then if you see the next year, and then the year after that, we have also given the glide path. It's not that this kind of a money will get spent, this kind of a deficit will be continued for years.
I wanted to come to that point. From 9.5%, very next year you are coming down to 6.8%. So isn't that a huge reduction in expenditure?
Why this is happening is that in the next year, we expect our revenue growth to happen. The tax revenue, we are estimating the increase of 16.9%. Similarly, in the non-tax revenue, this investment is going to give us 1,75,000 crores. So now if you consider that, the expenditure level is almost going to be the level of this year. That is about more than 34 lakh crores. So if that and with increased revenue collection, we expect that our fiscal deficit will come to the range of 6.8, which is quite realistic.
We are now joined in the studios by Shri T.V. Somanathan, the Expenditure Secretary, and we also have with us Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey, is DPAM Secretary. Mr. Somanathan, to begin with you, let's start off with capital expenditure, where we have seen a steep increase of more than 34%, 5.54 lakh crore rupees. What is the basic intent?
The intent is to make sure that we increase the rate of growth of the GDP by kick-starting capital projects which increase our productive capacity, because unlike revenue expenditure, capital expenditure actually makes the economy's capacity to produce larger.
The multiplier.
So it has a big multiplier effect. In fact, economic trick studies have shown that the capital expenditure multiplier is somewhere between 2.5 and 4.2, which means that 1 rupee spent by the government can produce an aggregate expenditure of 2.5 to 4.2 rupees in the economy. So when our capital expenditure is 5.54 lakh crores, it triggers private spending of another 10 to 20 lakh crores. So that has been the logic, that we should actually use government expenditure not just to alleviate suffering, which has been done this year, but also to improve the future rate of growth.
But what about the fiscal deficit, close to almost 10% now? A couple of years back, it used to be a no-no kind of a thing, especially with the FRBM Act in place. But this being a really extraordinary, globally, nationally, in whatever terms. So is it because of that you're giving it a go by?
No country this year which has any kind of fiscal targets that would sound like the fiscal targets of 1 year ago. So India is no exception. But in fact, our expansion of our fiscal deficit is smaller than that of many developed countries. And even at 9.5%, I would say it is a very prudent number. And it's been achieved by being careful in the manner that we spent.
And the money is being used.
Even this year, we are exceeding our capital expenditure estimates, even though we have had a very bad year. So we have preserved the quality of spending this year.
Mr. Tuhin Kanta Pandey, it's always said that the business of government is not to be in business. So is the government seriously taking forward that philosophy where today the finance minister spoke about IPO of LIC and also, disinvestment target in other companies?
I think she has mentioned, actually she has even named the companies for which the transactions have moved forward. Had it not been for COVID, probably these transactions would have been completed. So probably we will have a little bit of a spillover, but definitely 21-22 she named the transaction that will be completed.
But Air India could not be completed
Air India would be completed also in 21-22. Definitely, because we are trying to close it before March, but it could spill over to April or May in the first quarter.
We are also joined now by Mr. Tarun Bajaj, the Economic Affairs Secretary. Mr. Bajaj, let's talk about FDI with one specific sector, the insurance sector, from 49 to 74%. Can we expect private companies to usher in this kind of a change in the holding pattern and bring in FDI in a big way?
I think insurance sector is least penetrated in our country. The penetration is very low and it needs a lot of capital for it to grow further. So I think this 49 to 74% would definitely help the insurance sector. And this was also a demand from the insurance sector, especially the players who have come up and set up joint ventures with Indian partners, that because of low capacity or less capacity with the domestic partner, they wanted to bring in more capital. So this would definitely help the insurance sector to a great extent. And while we have extended the FDI from 49 to 74%, I would also through you like to assure your listeners that the policyholders' money is safe. It is actually regulated by Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. So where money can be invested, how money can be invested, what extent the money can be invested of the policyholders is actually a decision is taken by IRD, and the companies have to actually comply with those conditions. So their money is actually safe. So I would say that this is a very nice, good policy that was waiting for many years to come, and finally it has come, and I'm sure it will get us a lot of capital.
So that's it in this program on the budget. Thank you so much for joining us.
Google will pay $2.6 million to more than 5,500 employees and past job applicants to resolve allegations of discrimination against female engineers and Asians in California and Washington state. The settlement announced on Monday closes a 4-year-old case that the U.S. Labor Department brought as part of its periodic reviews of the pay practices. The inquiry resulted in accusations that between the years 2014 to 17, Google paid female engineers less than men in similar positions. The pay discrepancies were cited in several Google offices in its home state of California, as well as at locations in Seattle and Kirkland, Washington. Google had fiercely contested the allegations as unfounded before reaching the settlement without acknowledging any wrongdoing.
Kosovo and Israel have formally established diplomatic relations on Monday. Under a U.S. brokered agreement, Kosovo set up an embassy in Jerusalem. Kosovo Foreign Minister Milica Haradinaj Stubla and Israeli Foreign Minister Gabriel Ashkenazi reportedly celebrated the deal in a virtual ceremony on Monday, with both leaders signing documents in their respective countries. Kosovo declared its independence from Serbia in 2008, while Israel gained its independence in 1948. Kosovo and Israel share a common struggle for international recognition. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
International students from over 200 universities across China have again demanded a clear date for their return to their universities in China who have been stuck outside China for last 1 year. Venting their frustration and despair in another open letter, they argued that they cannot keep paying school fee for online degrees which will not be recognized in their countries. They said students are planning a demonstration on no return, no school fee without giving any further details about it. The letter posted on Twitter, part of their campaign for the phase-wise return, appealed to Chinese authorities to allow them as epidemic control measures for travelling are already in place. More from our Beijing correspondent.
Foreign students also said they are ready to take COVID tests, antibody tests and even vaccination if that helps them to return. They say online studies are not practically possible and these will not be recognized also in their countries. They further argued that US, Europe, Australia are calling back students, then China can also call the international student back. They said it is beyond comprehension that China is showing its inability to include a small number of international students compared to the massive efforts it has shown in tackling the pandemic. A similar letter posted last month demanded that their case may be treated like an education emergency and they be allowed to come back like other international travelers and business people as their future is already in jeopardy. Chinese Foreign Ministry, without giving any plans for their return, said the pandemic is still severe and countries formulate epidemic prevention measures according to their national conditions. It said China would study the return of foreign students to resume their study. However, it is not yet clear whether China will take any favorable decision after 15th March, the deadline for latest travel restrictions owing to the Spring Festival. Anshma Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
The Government of India today said that more than 39,50,000 or 3.95 million beneficiaries have received the vaccination so far under the countrywide COVID-19 vaccination exercise. Union Health Ministry said in the last 24 hours more than 191,000 healthcare workers were vaccinated across 3,516 sessions. The number of beneficiaries being vaccinated every day has been continuously showing a progressive increase. Uttar Pradesh stands at top position with over 4,63,000 jabs, followed by Rajasthan, Karnataka and Maharashtra.
Made in India COVID-19 vaccines have reached the United Arab Emirates today. Expressing pleasure at the development in a tweet, the Indian Embassy in Dubai said that India is deeply committed to serve its extended neighborhood and show the world the ancient philosophy of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. India called it a special bond, an extraordinary understanding and a strong commitment to look after each other. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, tweeted that Made in India vaccines reach Dubai. He termed UAE a special friend and India-UAE friendship a special relationship.
Today is World Wetlands Day. The occasion is observed to raise global awareness about the vital role of wetlands for people and our planet. This day also marks the date of the adoption of the Convention on Wetlands on 2nd February 1971 in the Iranian city of Ramsar on the shores of the Caspian Sea. On the occasion, Ramsar International has a simple message to share, the message that water, wetlands and life are inseparable. India has nearly 4.6% of its land as wetlands, covering an area of 15.26 million hectares and has 42 sites designated as wetlands of international importance, Ramsar sites, with a surface area of 1.08 million hectares. The year 2021 also commemorates the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands on 2nd February 1971 in Ramsar, Iran, celebrated annually as World Wetlands Day. On the occasion of the World Wetland Day and as a part of its commitment towards conservation, restoration and management of India's wetlands, the Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Babul Supriyo, today announced the establishment of a Centre for Wetland Conservation and Management.
The Lonar Crater Lake, which is located about 500 kilometers from Mumbai, was declared Maharashtra's second Ramsar site last year. More on the Lonar Lake in this report.
Lonar Sarovar has been declared as a Ramsar site on 22nd July 2020 by the Ramsar Convention on Wetland Secretariat, Switzerland. It includes the Lonar Lake as well as escarpments which form the crater walls and forested zones. This site, which lies in Buldhana district in the western Indian state of Maharashtra, is the second Ramsar site in the state after Nandur Madhyameshwar. This wetland on the Deccan Plateau is a closed basin with an area of 427 hectares. It is almost circular in shape and was formed by a meteorite impact onto the basalt bedrock. It is high in salinity and alkalinity as the lack of an outflow leads to a concentration of minerals as the lake water evaporates. Specialized microorganisms such as anaerobes, cyanobacteria and phytoplankton survive in this harsh chemical environment. Outside the lake, there is considerable diversity of plant and animal life as springs which feed the lake provide a source of fresh water. Inhabiting the site are 160 species of birds, including the vulnerable Asian woollyneck and common pochard. There are 30 species of trees, 46 species of reptiles and 12 species of mammals, including the iconic grey wolf. The wetland has become a major tourist attraction. Conservation efforts are being made to conserve its rich biodiversity. Lonar Lake is already a National Geoheritage Site and is also declared as a wildlife sanctuary. The government is developing a plan to ensure a sustainable nature tourism.
The Loktak Lake in India's northeastern state of Manipur is a fascinating ecosystem comprising of floating islands, colloquially known as fundis. The lake offers a breathtaking sight and harbors a thriving community of flora and fauna and human habitations. More on this from our Imphal correspondent.
Manipur is the right tourist destination for nature lovers. It is located in northeast India and has a soul-captivating hill and landscape. Among them is Loktak. The lake is located at Moirang, around 50 kilometers from Imphal. The lake is famous for the floating fundis and also known as floating lake. Fundis are heterogeneous masses of vegetation, soil and organic matter at various stages of decomposition, and many of them float over the lake. Located on these fundis, Kaibul Lamjang National Park is the only floating national park in the world. The park is the last natural refuge of the endangered Manipur brow-altered deer, Carbus ildi, also known as Sangai in Manipuri language. Loktak Lake of Manipur was designated as the wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention on March 1990. Besides Loktak Lake, the state has a number of wetlands that are profound destinations of wildlife. The Manipur state government has taken action on wetland conservation rule 2017 and also identified around 23 wetlands area across the state. Today is World Wetlands Day and the celebration was held at various parts of the state in an aim to spread awareness to save wetlands found in the state. This is Thaksom from Imphal for AIR News.
Indian-American Bhavya Lal was appointed by NASA as the acting chief of staff of the U.S. Space Agency yesterday. In a statement, NASA said Lal brings extensive experience in engineering and space technology, serving as a member of the research staff at the Institute for Defense Analysis, Science and Technology Policy Institute from 2005 to 2020.
A quick look at the headlines once again. The biggest aero show of Asia, Aero India, begins in Bengaluru on Wednesday. Investors cheer India's union budget. Industrialists and economists hail the budget as visionary and reformative. US says it may reimpose sanctions against Myanmar in view of the seizure of power by the military. India's COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 97.05%, over 3.9 million people vaccinated so far. Indian-American Bhavya Lal is the new acting chief of staff at NASA, and World Wetlands Day is being celebrated today. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnavajan by artists from Sri Lanka. We were listening to the Bhajan Vaishnavajan by artists from Sri Lanka as they celebrate their 73rd Independence Day, and with that we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of